Ready for parenting tip number 11? This one will totally change the way your child learns. If they are not taught their primary learning style, that's when you'll encounter a lot of conflicts. Say you're a visual learner, so you teach your child the visual way. Visual learners, right? You like to see things written, you love to read instructions, you don't want to hear them auditorily. You like instruction manuals, you like things really, spelled out, and you would rather read about it and write about it. So these students love the traditional style of learning, right? Where the teacher will write instructions on the board, will explain things only on the board. Sometimes they might not speak as much because they just want you to read and then they want you to do the assignments. If you are not really a visual learner, you will not even pay attention to half the things your teacher writes on the board. I have a lot of kids when I ask them, so what kind of examples did your, teacher show you regarding some math problems? I don't know. It looked boring. I didn't pay attention. But I did hear her say that we're having a quiz tomorrow. Did you look at the examples? No, they were boring. So make the time to do a learning assessment quiz on your child. If you want to email me or message me, my email address is kgbrainbuilders, all one word, at gmail.com. Or you can just message me and I will give you a link to a learning style assessment. And it really is important. I think some of us think that our child is kinesthetic or we think that our child is auditory. But many times a teacher will teach according to the teacher's primary learning style and not the child's. And you know that there are many different learning styles that are being, right? The kids, if you have 30 kids, are they all going to be visual? Are half of them going to be auditory? A teacher who usually uses, multiple modalities will have the most success in teaching a class. Or she'll maybe break them into groups. So maybe the visual learners can learn the best using their way, right? And I'll just read to you real quick. Visual learners, they love charts, they love graphs, they love lesson outlines, right? Bullet points. They want to know what's going to happen next by reading it. Seeing the posters or any kind of like Canva. If you notice, if you don't know what Canva is, I make a lot of my visuals, announcing Facebook Live instead of just saying tomorrow will be Facebook Live. So if you make it very creative using colors, using different fonts, normally you'll engage the visual learner. They want a lot of picture aids, they want PowerPoint presentations, and that's the visual learner. Now, the auditory learner will get bored with PowerPoint presentations because they don't want to read. They would rather listen to maybe an auditory book. Or I have kids, can you just read it to me, Miss Karen? And I say, no, you need to. Then, if that's the case, and I know that they hate reading, I'll take turns reading with them. You read a paragraph, then I'll read a paragraph. But when I read to them, I'll ask them questions to make sure they're actually using their auditory skills and listening to what I have to say. So many times, and I think every parent has experienced this, where you've told your child multiple times, whatever it is, clean the dishes, wash the dishes, take out the trash, take a shower. Taking a shower is a big one. Did you brush your teeth? For little ones, right? Did you wash your hands? Probably way more times that you care to ask in a single day, right? Did you put your shoes away? Did you clean your room? Well, these are all auditory questions, but even if your child is an auditory learner, they will just tune you out just because. Yeah, so even if you use the primary learning language, right, it depends on how interested your child is. If your child is into Minecraft, do you think they will read the instructions? Most likely. I mean, reading about Minecraft is way more interesting than reading about, the Civil War or about parts of speech, right? So it is important. I would, strongly recommend that you have your child take a learning style assessment. Those of you who love researching and you don't want to, have me give you the learning style assessment, Google learning style quiz. And normally it is visual, kinesthetic, or auditory. And some children have like between. They actually have two learning styles. They love auditory and they love kinesthetic. So kinesthetic children love to build things. They're into Legos. They love, like the hands-on. So if you have a teenager who is into cars, they want to know about the engine. They want to like actually build stuff. They don't want to just read. So a lot of the younger kids, if they just skip the instructions and you see them build something without the instructions, they're probably kinesthetic learners because they just want to do the hands-on thing, right? They don't need to read the instructions. They just know because that's their primary language. So let me just read to you a few little guidelines or cues if your child is kinesthetic. Of course, hands-on, they incorporate body movement. You can tell if you're in a meeting and someone is tapping their pencil. A lot of kinesthetic people do that. Or my husband, those of you who know Thomas, will walk around the room sometimes while he's on the phone. And I couldn't understand why he had to walk around because you're just on the phone. But I just realized that people who are kinesthetic don't like to just sit still, right? They want to move around. They might be doodling. If you're in a meeting and you see people pretending to write notes, they actually might be doodling. Why? They're bored. It's a way to keep themselves occupied, or else they'll go crazy sitting in a meeting, right, that lasts for an hour, and they're not really interested in it. The visual person will take notes, and they will make sure that they, have those notes organized so that they're easily accessible. These are the people that if you ask them, so what time is the training next week? They will open their calendar and they will be very organized because they have it written down. That's not to say that if you're auditory or kinesthetic that you won't remember it, but usually the auditory person, is the type of person who they can hear it and they'll remember it. So if you say next Thursday at 9 a.m., let's meet for coffee, virtual Zoom coffee. They hear it and, they'll just remember it. Thursday, 9 a.m., coffee talk. If they're, moving around, they might forget. If you're not focusing, you might forget. But this is why I strongly believe in learning memory exercises and just memory tips to help you remember. So this is getting to be a little long parenting tip. But one last tip, say you are going to Walmart. You ever lost your car at Walmart or lost your car if there are 6 floors at like the Hyatt or some hotel or at the airport? Use a memory clue where, say you are on level 4. I just remember something like I have 4 people in my family, so I'm going to remember level 4. Maybe your level is 5. There is a memory number cheat sheet, and it's like 1 is sun, 2 is bun, 3 is tree. So if you're on level 3, just visualize your car up in a tree. But using memory clues will help with remembering things. Remember now, you have like 3 seconds to do short-term memory. But if you put it in, just think of it as logging into your long-term memory bank. And certain things we will never forget, right? A mother will never forget giving birth to a child. You probably will never forget the last time that your husband or your wife really, really upset you, right? Certain things are ingrained in our memory. So parent tip number 11, it's not just memory exercises, right? Because that all has to do with your learning style. So depending on what your learning style is, your memory cues will differ. So take your, have your child, have your family do a learning style assessment. It doesn't take that long, and you're either visual or you're auditory, you're kinesthetic, or a combination. But if you learn what your child's learning style is, when you teach them a lesson, you can incorporate their primary learning style, and then you'll have a better success rate in actually teaching them. And that's parent tip number 11. Okay, bye.